We're here with Troy Cooper at Saskatoon City Hall. Congratulations.
Thank you very
And
much.
one of the first things you said that's on your plate is the audit of Saskatoon's Police Service. What are you anticipating there, and how will you handle it?
Well, some of the audits that are done for public organizations will focus on austerity measures. Some will talk about best practices for structure of the organization and that sort of thing. So I haven't seen the audit, but I'm pretty excited to go through it and see if there's things that can be implemented in Saskatoon or should be implemented, some that may have already been done, and talk that over with the board and senior staff before we really do anything further.
In some respects, policing has come a long way here in Saskatoon. We used to be known as the city that gave Starlight tours,
That's
as
right.
the city where the Neil Stonechild case happened. What do you see that's changed, and what work must continue?
Well, I think Saskatoon over the last decade has moved their police service from the reputation you just described to one that's leading across the country. It's an absolute professional organization with an incredible reputation. So I think what happened over the last 10 years was recognition that the police are part of the community, and they have to invite the community into policing, whether through recruiting or community involvement in some way. That's taken place through a number of training initiatives and recruiting initiatives, and that's the kind of thing that has to continue.
Do you see yourself doing a number of face-to-face conversations and sort of relationship building with people who are Indigenous here in Saskatoon?
I think if you don't have authentic, genuine relationships with the people you're policing, then you're probably not going to be very effective. And that would be one of my first roles and priorities, is to go into the community, meet the people that need to understand what's happening with policing, and form those relationships and build those relationships.
Indigenous people have told us that they often do feel targeted by carding or street checks here in Saskatoon. Our former chief said they were an effective way to police the city. How much would you agree and disagree?
I think the concept of street checks is really built into policing and into community-based policing. Police officers need to know the community. They should know their community, and they should understand when something looks suspicious, and that is what carding and street checks is all about. Where we run into trouble is when that process is handled in a way that's got prejudice or bias attached to it. And so I think the police service has to continue with what they're doing, but they have to have policies and processes and strong messaging that will make sure that there's no room for bias, that there's no room for prejudice, even implicit bias.
So will officers here be instructed to continue doing street checks, or will they be on hold until that policy is developed by the provincial authorities?
So we'll take our cue on that from the Provincial Police Commission. They're developing policy currently. There is policies around it or strategies around it with the current police service. I'll wait till I get here in 5 weeks before I make any of those changes and see where we're at there. But there is work being done, I know, provincially to solidify some of that policy work.
I know a lot of people will be looking at the 4 months between which you were sworn in and you become our chief of police here in Saskatoon, and the date, July 1st, when marijuana becomes legal here in Saskatchewan. You've raised a number of concerns about marijuana legalization in the past. What do you see ahead in these 4 months, especially with dispensaries?
I think what will happen in 4 months is information. So right now, police don't have a lot of information to do budgeting and planning and training with. So what we need to know, I guess, is what the impact will be. And when we look at our neighbors in the United States who have legalized marijuana, we try to use some of their data to project increase in offending and increase in costs associated with that. Is difficult to do because we do have differences here in Saskatchewan. We have a government that's committed to assist us with training and assist us with some of the costs associated. So we don't know what level that's going to get to, how much is that going to continue. We have still got open discussions around revenue sharing and what funding will reach the city and the service. So all of these really important pieces of the puzzle are not known to us yet. And hopefully 4 months from now, we'll have that. But I can tell you, we will be prepared for the legal change. We will be prepared to make sure the community is safe.
So you won't be doing what our neighbors in Regina are doing. Police Chief Evan Bray in Regina has said he's going to be cracking down on the dispensaries right up until July the 1st.
Well, currently the dispensaries that are operating now are operating outside the law. So the Saskatoon Police Service has a policy on that they'll be impacting, or they'll be putting into effect in the community until I get here. Once I get here, I think 5 weeks from now, if things are still in the same situation that we are in now, then yes, absolutely, we'll be addressing that through enforcement.
Why?
The role of law and regulation is to make sure things are done safely, and the dispensaries that are currently working outside the law haven't followed any of those regulations, so we're not sure that they're operating in a safe manner. We do know that they're operating in a legal manner, so it's not fair to people who have been waiting patiently to have a legal authorized business to allow other people to run out ahead and to operate outside the law, outside regulations that are intended to keep people safe.
But a number of people who run these dispensaries has mentioned, we're taking business away from gang members and known drug dealers. This at least centralizes it, keeps it safe, and keeps it on the up and up until we have legalization. Why go after them at this point?
Well, I think when you say go after them, I don't imagine there's going to be a lot of SWAT call-outs to marijuana dispensaries. But what I can tell you is that they're going to be served notice that they are operating outside the law. That's if the current situation continues. And I think we're very close to July 1st. I'm sure that the provincial government will roll out a lot more of their plan in the meantime, and we'll have more information to deal with.
Thank you for this, Chief Cooper.
You're welcome.